Part 78. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 771. Chapter 771 Offering Tea to Apologize. Xiaoling sighed, some things are so intertwined with love and hate. Li Lei half knelt down, held her hand on the hospital bed, and looked at her carefully with a pair of deep eyes. Xiaoling, do you think I am not ruthless enough? She felt warm in her heart and shook her head. Hand out his hand, he rubbed his short hair that felt so good. I just like how silly you are. The man she loves has principles and bottom lines, and will not do anything terrible or cruel even when provoked to the extreme. This kind of man makes her feel safe and dependent. So, his eyebrows widened and he smiled softly, you are stupid. She ruffled his short hair again, yes, I am so stupid that I fell in love with you. The two stared at each other tenderly, and for a moment, they laughed together. The days on the cruise ship were as peaceful as water. Xiaoling was lying in a luxurious and comfortable ward to recuperate. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows on the entire wall, the pale golden sunlight cast little bits of gold on the blue sea. Her injuries healed quickly, and I don't know what medicine the doctors used. She was able to get out of bed and walk on her own within a few days. After she walked half a circle on the deck in her loose robe, Xiaomoyan found her and said, I'm going back to the mountains. Are you really not going to follow me? She looked up at her brother and said, send hello to my parents for me. Xiaomoyan looked a little unkind. People say that married girls are like water thrown away. But before she got married, she just stuck to that broken piece of wood. How could she be so good in the future? Sooner or later, that old piece of wood must be taught a lesson. Poor classmate Li Xiaoli's impression in his brother-in-law's mind became even worse. Xiaomoyan left alone. Before leaving, the owner of Paradise gave him the entire cruise ship as a gift, but he didn't even blink, and he changed hands and gave the cruise ship to Xiaoling in front of everyone. Everyone is not calm anymore. What is the relationship between this girl and Xiaomoyan? Unfortunately, no matter how much I tried to insinuate myself, I couldn't get a single word out of her mouth. A group of people worked hard to take care of Xiaoling, lest they neglect this girl who was cherished by the imperial master. This made Li Lei feel much more relaxed. He spent most of his time accompanying Xiaoling. Hui Xiaowei was trapped in paradise this time, witnessed too many dark sides, and was beaten and whipped with extremely cruel methods. These things left a deep shadow in the child's young mind, making him fall asleep every night. Sometimes I dare not turn off the light. I often wake up from my dreams in the middle of the night, screaming. The child was sensible and did not tell Xiaoling this. He only used his small hands to tug at the corner of Li Lei's clothes and said, Dad, I'm scared in his little mind, his mother has suffered too much and is so fragile and overwhelmed, while his father is strong and can be relied on. Li Lei comforted the child gently and stayed by his side every night to accompany him to sleep. Even during the day, I would play games with him to relax and let the shadow of imprisonment fade away little by little. Xiaoling didn't know what he was busy with. She thought he hadn't recovered from the injuries he sustained during the confrontation with Li Feng, so she didn't bother him. The cruise ship slowly sailed toward the coastline. In her free time, she would let someone make a pot of tea, sit on the deck, enjoy the sea breeze, and write some music. Occasionally, a seagull sits on the fence. That day, she had lunch and took a nap on the deck as usual. Suddenly I heard footsteps. She looked up and saw Mr. Li. Since Xiaomoyan rescued her that day, Mr. Li has never appeared, so much so that Xiaoling almost forgot that there was such a person on the ship. Now, seeing the old man approaching, she closed the music sheet in her hand. Is something wrong? Her voice was light, vaguely like Xiaomoyan. This is the indifference that comes from the bones of the Xia family, a vague sense of alienation and coldness when looking down at the ants and the common people. Because of Xiaowei's incident, she had unknowingly regarded the old man as an outsider. Rather than the grandpa she was wishful thinking at the beginning. The old man wore a navy blue Chinese tunic suit and held a finely carved agar-wood faucet crutch in his hand. He was followed by an entourage, who held a tray in his hand and a cup of tea in the tray. They walked to Xiaoling and stood still. The old man took the tea from the attendant, bowed slightly, and brought it to her hand. Xiaoling's eyes turned slightly on the beautiful rain-stained azure porcelain cup, and then fell on the old man's wrinkled hands and face. She said nothing and looked indifferent. Mr. Li is somewhat impressed by this girl. Why didn't he notice before that she was so calm? Miss Ye, since she didn't speak, he spoke first. His voice was steady. Although he was making groveling movements, he was as calm as a rock. This cup of tea belongs to the old man. I apologize to you. I am the only one to blame. I didn't know that you were acquainted with the Imperial Master. I offended you so much. Please forgive me. Xiaoling just looked at it coldly and did not reach out to pick it up. On the deck, the old man and the young man formed a somewhat strange scene. The old man was bent over, his pale hair blowing in the sea breeze, which made the young girl, whose face was as light as a cherry blossom, look cold and arrogant. There was a faint anger in the heart of Mr. Li's entourage, and he couldn't help but said, Miss Ye, the old man invites you to drink tea. He had protected the old man for most of his life, and he had always been aloof. When he spoke to Xiaoling, he didn't realize how much he had brought with him. The bossy aura seemed to have given her a huge amount of face. So, Xiaoling smiled lightly. I don't lack this cup of tea. She turned her eyes away from the old man and looked at the sea. Isn't it too cheap to buy a cup of tea to hurt my child so much? Some things can be forgiven, and something she couldn't forgive. She couldn't imagine what would happen to this child if she hadn't rescued Xiao Hui. At the very least, he would be controlled by others for the rest of his life. In serious cases. She thought of the scenes in paradise, and her heart felt like needles pricking her heart. Mr. Li didn't know her well, so he relied on Su Tang and other subordinates to collect a lot of information. In the information, they all said that this girl was stupid, impulsive, and fragile, somewhat similar to the eldest daughter of the Gu family who was imprisoned. She only knew how to cry and rely on men when in trouble, and she had no ability at all. Now, I hit a snag, neither soft nor hard, and found out how wrong the information was. He couldn't help but narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at her again calmly. The girl in front of her looks petite, with delicate features and beautiful eyes like a quietly blooming flower. She is not eye-catching at first glance, and she does not even have a strong aura, as if she can be destroyed with just a flick of a finger. But what about the facts? How many people in the world can do that in front of the helmsman of the Li family who has spent most of his life in black and white, with his hands stained with human blood, and who can change the color of the world and the world with just a stomp of his feet? The next chapter will be around 10 o'clock. I slept for a while this evening and got up late. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 772. Chapter 772. Pei Xian did it. She is calm and at ease. He was not flattered because he was a junior, nor was he complacent because he had the support of the national master behind him. He didn't show any anger at his child being kidnapped. How could he be so angry? Pity. If her appearance could be better, she would be qualified to be the mistress of the Li family. Thinking of this, Mr. Li looked at Xiaoling. Since I sincerely apologize, I will naturally do my best to satisfy you. Miss Ye, tell me what you want. Xiaoling still looked at the sea. I want to turn back time. Xiao Hui has never been kidnapped. After saying that, she turned to look at Mr. Li and smiled. It can't be done, can it? Mr. Li said, even the Imperial Master, I'm afraid I can't do it. Xiaoling stood up and walked towards the distance without looking back. Old man, You know what I want. She wanted to be with Li Lei, receive blessings from relatives and friends, and live in harmony as a family. But, the old man is not willing to give it. Sure enough, the old man behind him frowned and said in a deep voice, "Monsieur, you want too much. Instead of asking me, you might as well ask the imperial master to relieve you of the disaster. By then, the Li family, will let you get what you want and marry into the family." On the deck, the young girl paused and looked back. Really? Go forward again. It is true that she wants to stay together with the man she loves forever, but she is not crying to marry into the Li family. It would be best if she could get the acceptance and blessing of the Li family. Even if she didn't get it, she wouldn't force it. The worst would be that she and Li Lei would never have a wedding or enter the Li family, and the Li family would never know that they had lost what? The glory from Phoenix. She spent half of her rough life to bless her descendants. This is the true meaning of the Phoenix life. After Nirvana has gone through disasters, it is a continuous blessing. Whichever family it falls on, that family will be safe and prosperous from generation to generation. Therefore, her brother has always warned her not to get married easily. If the Li family rejects and does not approve of her and does not have the courage to bear her misfortunes, then naturally there will not be such great blessings to bear her blessings for the rest of her life. If she is forced to marry, it will only bring trouble to the Li family. Feng Kaiwu, Feng Kaiwu. This Wuotong Palace must also be able to withstand it. She walked forward step by step, her back was elegant and noble, and there was a vague air of awe-inspiring and inviolable grace. Mr. Li looked a little dazed. What kind of person was this girl? He finally couldn't help but ask, "What's your relationship with the national preceptor?" Xiaoling stopped and turned around again, and smiled again. "If I say that I met the imperial master just by chance, and he promised to help me once, and we will never have anything to do with him again, old man, will you be disappointed?" The sarcasm on her lips was so obvious that the old man's face darkened. This girl is so shameless. It turns out that she and Master Xia didn't have any deep friendship, and they had been acting like a fox and pretending to be a tiger for so many days. The old man held the teacup in his hand, and his fingers gradually tightened, and he almost crushed the teacup. The entourage on the side looked frightened and said cautiously, "Old man, don't make yourself angry. It's not worth it for such an ignorant little girl." Mr. Li thought about it, so he endured it and calmed down his mood. Since Xiaoling has nothing to do with the imperial master, the old man does not intend to continue spending time on the cruise ship. Before leaving, he called his grandson, "Li Lei, I will never allow you to marry her into the family. You can do it for yourself no. In this life, my only wife is Xiaoling." The young and handsome man stared at his grandfather without fear. "No matter what methods you use, you can't break us up. By the way, I have something to ask you. How on earth did you think of bringing Xiao Hui to this place? Is it Pei Ziyan? He is not stupid." Several misunderstandings over the years have long made him suspect that Pei Ziyan and his grandfather are secretly colluding. No conclusive evidence has ever been found. But this time the Xiaohui incident is too suspicious. How could a normal person think of putting their child in a training club? Only Pei Ziyan, that man, knew Xiaoling's most unbearable past and what Xiaoling was most afraid of. Could he resort to such a sinister trick? Sure enough, Mr. Li narrowed his eyes and smiled, but the smile did not reach his eyes. "Are you just realizing it now?" "Yes, old man, I have joined forces with Pei Ziyan a long time ago. That man put a lot more thought into Yexin Ling than you did. If you are determined to win, they are a perfect match, so don't get in the way." "Grandpa," Li Lei was furious. The old man sneered and walked away. Behind the screen of the luxurious room, a girl wearing a light silk floor-length robe quietly walked out, looking at the direction where the old man left, her expression a little pale. It turned out to be him. She murmured, "I thought that after so many years, we could finally get along well with each other. It turns out that his superficial kindness to me was all fake. Her pale fingers curled up into fists at her sides. Who has said that? Old lovers are like cinnabar moles in the heart. Even if they are separated by fate, they are still the most beautiful touch of red in the memory, like a dream. But, her cinnabar mole? It's nothing more than a thorn. She lowered her eyes, making her expression unclear. Lilei stepped forward and gently hugged her thin body. Xiaoling, what is past is past. Stay away from that man in the future. He is too dangerous. She was silent for a long time. The cruise ship finally arrived at the coastline. When she held up her skirt and was helped off the ship, she turned to him and said to him, "In a few days, Xiaohuai's life will be announced. Please change the press release." Lilei seemed to have expected it and was not surprised. "Okay." He silently lit a candle for Pei Ziyan in his heart, and he had to say that he felt a little secretly happy. This was a typical example of whether he would die if he did not commit suicide. Originally, Xiaoling's heart was so towards that man, but the man himself messed it up. Thanks to the pig opponent. Lilei's smile spread. Xiaoling took Xiaohui back home, settled the children, and went straight to Pei Ziyan's villa next door. Zhou Ma, a servant of the Pei family, opened the door and was surprised to see her. "Miss Ye, what brought you here? Come in quickly, the husband is in the study, I will call him right away." The husband had already given the order, no matter what, Miss Ye must notify him immediately whenever she comes. Xiaoling said, "No need, I will go up and find him myself." Ma Zhou repeatedly said, that's okay, although my husband didn't like people to disturb him when he was in the study, Miss Ye was an exception. She always had privileges. Xiaoling went upstairs with ease, followed the wooden corridor, walked all the way to Pei Ziyan's study at the end, and opened the door. Inside, a tall man was sitting behind a spacious rosewood desk, dealing with a mountain of official documents. His facial features were as cold and profound as before. In the half-bright light and shadow, his eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, showing vertical marks like knife carvings. Hearing the noise, he raised his head and spread his eyebrows. "Xiaoling. There is another chapter tonight. End of this chapter." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 773. Chapter 773. The Ferocious Pei Ziyan. Xiaoling walked forward step by step and stopped in front of Pei Ziyan. Across the desk, she looked at the man's face coldly, as if she was seeing him for the first time, with a very unfamiliar look. Pei Ziyan noticed something was wrong, stood up, walked around the desk and walked towards her. "Xiaoling, what's wrong?" She suddenly raised her hand and slapped him hard in the face unexpectedly. The crisp voice echoed in the study, and Zhou's mother at the door was startled. Oh my God, she had never seen anyone dare to treat her husband like this. Zhou's mother felt excited and wanted to step forward to break up the fight. However, seeing the two people confronting each other in the study, she suddenly took back her steps. Mr. Zhou didn't like others to interfere in his and Miss Ye's affairs. Zhou's mother hesitated, not daring to look at the clear finger marks on her husband's face, and stepped back. In the study room, Pei Ziyan reached out and touched his face. He stared at Xiaoling with a pair of unpredictable eyes. His voice was low and hoarse. "Why are you so angry? This slap is really cruel." Up to now, he still pretends to be gentle and elegant. Xiaoling thought of the countless times in her 2 lives that she had been deceived by his illusions, and that was why she had put Xiaohui in such a dangerous situation. She can forgive many things, but she only cares about her children. She wants her children to grow up happily and safely, even a little bit of harm will not do. We're done. She uttered these 4 words, turned around and left. Pei Ziyan grabbed her so fiercely that she staggered and fell into his arms. What happened to you this time? He spat out each word through his teeth in a terrifyingly dangerous voice. You rushed in and slapped me in the face, then left right away. What mistake did I make? She raised her head and looked angrily at the man who was much taller than her. Fire was about to burst out of her eyes. How dare you treat my child like that? Pei Ziyan, I will never forgive you. Only then did he know that something had happened. Having worked with Mr. Li for so long, I never expected that I would be completely betrayed. Yes, it was Pei Ziyan who came up with the idea of sending Xiao Hui to the teacher. He knew what kind of tricks could be used to make Xiaoling collapse so that he could truly threaten her and make her completely break up with Li Lei. But it still failed. It doesn't matter if it fails, you can think of other strategies. The most important thing is not to let Xiaoling know that she is involved. For a moment, Pei Ziyan had already made a calculation. I don't understand what you are talking about. You don't admit it. Xiaoling was like an angry lioness. It doesn't matter, I never expected you to admit it. I'm just here to tell you that we are finished. She repeated those 4 words again, shook his hand off hard, and was about to leave. He saw unprecedented determination in her fire-like eyes. The stranger-like look in her eyes made him confused. He had a premonition that this time, he was really going to lose her. Pei Ziyan grabbed her and pressed her to the desk, with her back bent over the thick craft paper files leaning like a mountain on the desk. Her eyes widened in fright, and she became even angrier and resisted instinctively. Her calves were kicking wildly, but they could not harm the man in front of her at all. Pei Ziyan pressed her the table, and the thick craft paper documents fell down and scattered everywhere on the carpet. She was pressed into a small and forcible space. Her snow-white skin was set against the rosewood desk, and the bruises caused by her resistance were shocking. The man's tall figure imprisoned her. Crazy. This man is crazy. Xiaoling panicked, and then she realized how impulsive she was, and she single-handedly rushed into this demonic man's study. Maybe it was because he hadn't hurt her body for so long that she had forgotten how terrifying it was when he was angry. She kicked and hit him helplessly. Let me go. He held her chin with his iron strength. I wanted to take it slow with you, but you forced me. Since he couldn't make her come back to him willingly, then, let her suffer and let her never escape. Pei Ziyan's eyes were red and fierce. Xiaoling was really frightened. She suddenly felt blessed and shouted, "Don't forget that my brother is the national master. He will not let you go." These words made Pei Ziyan's hands pause. Your Majesty, the national preceptor. Pei Ziyan's eyes became darker, this time with a cold murderous intent that made people tremble. The person he hates most in his life, besides Li Lei, is Xiaoquashi Xiaomoyan. If it weren't for Xiaomoyan, he would never have been able to escape from his cage as early as when Xiaoling's paragliding accident happened. How would there be so many things later? It's a pity that Xiaomoyan gambled with the life and death of the entire Pei family, forcing him to give up Xiaoling. Now, do you want to do it again? Pei Ziyan wanted to find Master Xia immediately and cut him into pieces with the most cruel punishment in the world, but he couldn't. No family could compete with the Xia family, which was all-powerful. Even if there was great resentment, he could only endure it. Slowly, he let go of Xiaoling. Xiaoling regained her freedom and ran out in embarrassment. She swore that she would never come to this pervert again, it was too dangerous. She ran down the corridor without looking back. However, before she could run far, her arm was suddenly pulled by a strong force. Before she could react, Pei Ziyan had already pressed her hard against the wall, as if he wanted to eat her alive. Xiaoling, he finally let her go after an unknown amount of time. You are mine. I will never let you go in this life, the next life, and the next life. Her body was shaking, and she staggered out of the villa regardless of what he said. The door of the villa was wide open behind her, like a bottomless black hole. She ran back to her villa in one breath, ignoring the surprised looks of the servants when they saw her in a mess. She returned to the bedroom on the second floor, closed the door, and hugged herself tightly. Zion was crazy, even his brother's name couldn't scare him. She really didn't know what outrageous things he would do next. No, she wanted to announce Xiao Hui's identity as soon as possible to protect the child from harm. With trembling hands, she dialed her mobile phone. "Lilei, how is the banquet prepared for Xiao Hui going? Invite all the celebrities and media to let everyone know how much we value him. No matter who is in the future, if you want to touch him, you have to think twice. Lao Pei hasn't appeared for a long time. Here's a chapter. Good night everyone." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 774. Chapter 774, Evening Dress Dispute. A few days later. As the lanterns came on in the evening, Li Lei sent his bodyguard Arnold to give Xiaoling a few things. She took it and opened the largest gift box. The exquisite craft paper outer cover, velvet, and ribbons were unfolded layer by layer, revealing a light lotus-colored long dress lying quietly inside. It was a long dress, made by an unknown famous craftsman. The long trailing skirt was as soft and luxurious as a wisp of smoke in the sky. It was dotted with tiny diamonds, twinkling in the dim sky. Fascinating light. There are also matching jewelry and high heels. Xiaoling looked at Arnold. "What are you doing?" Arnold bowed his head to her respectfully and replied, "This is the dress that the young master specially selected for you, and told you to wear it at the upcoming banquet. There is also one for young master Xiaowai, since Su Tang and Tan Ying have been in conflict with each other one after another, since causing trouble for Xiaoling. Li Lei has stopped letting them interfere in her affairs. Now, everything related to her is handled by Arnold, his loyal bodyguard." Arnyo and Xiaoling have been acquaintances for many years. Hearing this, Xiaoling laughed. "It's not like I can't afford it." She is no longer what she used to be. She is no longer the little girl who had to leave the Tianyi training camp in order to repay millions of debts. Now that he has a net worth of tens of billions and is backed by such a behemoth as the hidden Xia family, what else do he need from a man? But Arnold said, "This is the young master's intention." She blinked her eyes and stroked the smoky soft fabric with her slender white fingers. It could be seen that Li Lei had chosen it very carefully, and the texture, color, and style all matched her very well. She accepted the expensive gifts and said, "Thank you, young master, for me." The young master said, "You are not an outsider, so there is no need to thank you." The strong bodyguard smiled gently. So, Xiaoling also laughed again. "Yes, we will be a family soon." She called Xiaowai and dressed up the child carefully with the clothes sent by the child's biological father. The little child looked very energetic in a pearl-white tuxedo. His dimples were revealed when he smiled slightly, making him handsome and cute. Mom, do you like it?" He turned around in front of Xiaoling. Xiaoling said, "You look good. Remember, you are not allowed to mess with little girls when you go to the banquet, and you are not allowed to mess with young ladies, aunts, and grandmothers. Do you understand?" This child inherited her delicate eyebrows and the sculpted look of her biological father. His contour lines, coupled with his cute temperament, make him look like an 80-year-old grandmother and an 8-year-old girl. Given time, I don't know how many women will be captured by him. Xiaoling felt very guilty. Another generation of female killers was about to grow up. Little Xiaowai didn't know what his mother was thinking, so he nodded seriously. "Okay, even if my sisters and aunties pinch my face, I won't resist." The adults loved pinching his baby face, and they never tired of it. Xiaoling was amused by him and pinched his face gently. "Be good." Took the children to the banquet. This banquet was held in the name of Li Lei. He said in the invitation letter that an important event would be announced at the scene. All the invited celebrities and media are here. Now Mr. Lee is the biggest force in the city's black and white factions. Everyone is curious about what he wants to announce, not to mention they don't dare to offend him. When Xiaoling walked in, she saw Feng Kun. Feng Kun asked, "Does this matter have anything to do with you?" As soon as he received the invitation, he inquired about the list of invited guests and found that, except for the media, everyone else was more or less related to Li Lei and Xiaoling. People have personal relationships. He was so smart, he guessed something right away. Xiaoling looked at him and said lightly, "Tonight is a good day." Feng Kun held a glass of champagne in his hand. In the splendid banquet hall, a dark black dress looked calm and pleasing to the eye. "You are finally going to marry shall I get married?" She was amused by him. "Do I seem to be someone who can be married so easily?" Feng Kun looked her over deliberately. "Second, young Master Li can trick you away with just a little finger." Xiaoling feigned anger, and the two of them joked with each other for a while. Wei Shaiyin also came. Seeing her chatting with Feng Kun, he was very unhappy and joined their conversation with his own glass of wine. "Xiaoling, you should stay away from certain people, or be careful of being deceived." Xiaoling almost wanted to sigh. "Away, away, after fighting Feng Kun for so many years, are you tired?" Fortunately, Feng Kun has a stable temperament. If he exploded like you, the world would have been destroyed long ago. She looked at Feng Kun silently. The meaning in her eyes was very clear. "I don't care, you can take care of your enemy." Feng Kun lived up to her expectations. As if he didn't hear what away meant, he changed the subject lightly. "Yes, Xiaoling, you have to be careful tonight, look over there." Xiaoling followed his line of sight and looked over. Even Wei Shaiyin temporarily put aside the quarrel and looked over. "Sutang? She is really dressed up today. What is she doing? Is Li Lei finally going to marry her?" He came late and didn't hear it. During the conversation between Feng Kun and Xiaoling just now, his thoughts were simple and he casually guessed what would be announced tonight. Xiaoling was so angry that she bumped him with her elbow. "Bah! Sutang is about to get married to you." "Don't curse me." Wei Shaiyin was furious. "What I dislike the most in my life are scheming people," she said and glanced at Feng Kun. "It's better for him to marry her. Two conspirators, let's make a couple." Xiaoling. Feng Kun, "Thank you, even the marriage was arranged for him." Wei Shaiyin, "You're welcome." The three of them took new champagne from the passing waiter's tray and looked at Sutang from a distance. Tonight, Sutang was indeed very grandly dressed. She was wearing a golden tasseled gown with a long tail. She was elegant, dignified, and well-mannered, and had the aura of a royal empress. She moved among the crowd, talking to different guests, like a competent hostess. Xiaoling silently looked at the light lotus-colored dress on her body. It looked like a concubine. She gritted her teeth and scolded Li Lei 17 or 8 times in her mind. A straight man is a straight man. Do you have any aesthetics? Knowing that there might be a love rival to disrupt the situation tonight, why did he get such a tattered rag to use as a shirt for her? If the master who designed and sewed this dress knew it, he would cry blind. The dress she is wearing, from material selection to design to sewing, took much more effort than the golden dress Sutang wore. The result is also stunning, ethereal, and flattering, so it can be placed anywhere no matter what the occasion. It is a first-class elegance. However, well, compared to the rich gold, this kind of fairy skirt still lacks a bit of the aura of a royal empress. Classmate Li Xiaoli is a big idiot. Having been the boss of an entertainment company for so many years, he doesn't understand the battle between women for their uniforms. I'm not in the mood today, so I actually took 2 hours to write this chapter. There are still 2 chapters tonight, but at this speed, I guess the update will be very late. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 775. Chapter 775. Who is the master? Xia Xiaoling's classmate pricked the villain silently and hard. Even Wei Shaiyan noticed something was wrong. Are you unhappy? Why? Xia Xiaoling, a classmate, said weakly, the clothes don't look good. Wei Shaiyan, it's very beautiful. I also want to ask you where such a unique long skirt was made. It must be made by a rare and famous craftsman. All the women in this banquet hall know how many streets there are. Xia Xiaoling's classmate was dying. It's not as good as the one on Su Tang's body. Classmate Wei Shaiyan glanced at her with disdain. This dress is too much for you. The one Su Tang wears for ordinary occasions is also first-class, luxurious and elegant, but the smell of copper is still too strong, which is different from yours. The design of this piece is incomparable. Where is your aesthetic sense? Has it been eaten by a dog? Xia Xiaoling simply turned her back, not wanting to talk to him. However, Feng Kun saw the clues and laughed. Are you jealous? Don't worry, since Li Lei gave you this dress, he has his own reasons. How can you be compared to others? When he was chatting with her just now, it has been learned that the skirt and the tuxedo on Xiao Shaowai were both gifts from Li Lei. Xiaoling glared at him. You're the only one who's jealous. Feng Kun just smiled, as if he were looking at his unreasonable little sister dotingly. In this life and in the last life, Xiaoling's temperament seems to have changed a lot, but in fact, it is the same at heart, so innocent and willful that people can't help but condone all her bad tempers. Some girls are born to be pampered. Xiaoling lost her temper for a while and said, I don't want to see her. The time hadn't come yet, and Li Lei hadn't announced Xiao Hui's life experience yet. There was actually someone among the guests at the banquet, such as Wei Shaiyan, a pig teammate, guessing that today it was the banquet where Li Lei and Su Tang announced their marriage. Many people complimented Su Tang with enthusiasm on their faces. Xiaoling didn't want to bump into Su Tang at this time, because her clothes would lose their momentum. Feng Kun said, what are you afraid of? Show your ability to dominate the stage. As long as she is willing, her presence can instantly overwhelm anyone. Not only Feng Kun, but also Wei Shaiyan and others are convinced of this. Suspect. Wei Shaiyan nodded repeatedly beside him, a rare recognition of Feng Kun. Xiaoling said, trouble. She didn't want to waste her energy and use her housekeeping skills to deal with a woman who should have been defeated a long time ago. The price would drop too much, huh? Wei Shaiyan rolled his eyes at her. You are too lazy to kill me. Feng Kun shook his head slightly and laughed, silently looking at her arrogance. She drank the champagne in her hand, lifted up her skirt and walked in the opposite direction to Su Tang. Over there was the garden with quiet lights, which was a good place to hide in the middle of the banquet. She just didn't want to fight Su Tang here so that a certain big boss would feel proud that she was infinitely charming. He. In the final analysis, she still hated classmate Li Xiaolai. At the other end of the banquet hall, classmate Li Xiaolai, who was socializing with others, sneezed. Xiaoling's dress fluttered as she walked out. After taking a few steps, she still couldn't hide. She watched as Su Tang appeared out of nowhere, and her noble and dignified long dress made of gold silk blocked her way. It really looks like a concubine caught in the act by the empress of the palace. Xiaoling thought sadly. On his face, he had a calm and arrogant expression. Su Tang. Many people have looked at them with the eyes of the good show. In recent years, the love triangle between them and Li Lei has been widely known to everyone. Although everyone didn't know what second young Master Li was going to announce tonight, they were guessing that it might have something to do with one of these two women. Is this dispute over the wedding of wealthy families finally going to be settled? The onlookers had strong interest in their eyes. Su Tang looked at Xiaoling, with a decent smile on her lips. Miss Ye, you are welcome to this banquet. Please forgive me for any inconvenience in the reception. She really considers herself the hostess. Xiaoling didn't want to have a conflict with her. After all, today was Xiao Hui's big day, and she was still angry with Li Lei. Why couldn't she think of competing for him and be jealous? However, her love rivals have all come to her door. If she doesn't give her some clues, they will really think that Xiaoling is weak and can be bullied. Xiaoling lamented in her heart that she couldn't live in peace for a moment, and turned on the stranglehold mode. She looked at Su Tang with a smile like a flower. There's nothing wrong with the hospitality. This place is very good. I chose the venue, appointed the bartender and chef, I also selected the menu, and even the guest list. I have dealt with Li Lei one by one, but it's thanks to you, Miss Su, that you took so much trouble to help me entertain the guests. As soon as these words were spoken, the situation was instantly reversed. The surrounding guests who were listening to the gossip were in an uproar. What, the venue, drinks, and guests of this banquet were all Xiaoling's idea? If that's the case, how close should her relationship with Li Lei be? Su Tang, on the other hand, was like a big maid, helping the host and hostess with housekeeping. Su Tang is the special assistant to second young master Li, maybe he just helps with the housekeeping, someone whispered. Nonsense, have you ever seen a housekeeper dressed more dazzlingly than the matron? Someone retorted. Everyone's realizations were swirling in the dresses of the two women, the fairy-like Xiaoling, and the graceful and luxurious Su Tang. When it comes to the aura of the palace, Su Tang is the stronger. For a time, some people turned to Su Tang. When Su Tang heard Xiaoling's words, her heart skipped a beat. Before, she only knew that Li Lei was going to hold a banquet to announce a big event today, but she didn't know that the banquet was being held jointly with Xiaoling, let alone what was about to be announced. Now it seems that, just as she guessed, that big event has something to do with Xiaoling. Does Li Lei really want to announce his marriage to Xiaoling? Su Tang was agitated, but on the surface, she was still dignified and elegant. Monsieur really loves to joke. Before the banquet started, the old man told me to greet the distinguished guests well. This is my job. By the way, you have to be small. Rui is taking good care of the other little guests. Don't worry, Xiao Hui will feel at home here. These two sentences imply that he and Li Rui are the masters. The guests were shaken again. Yes, I almost forgot. Su Tang was the one who gave birth to a child for Li Lei. Their child was also at this banquet. How could the mother be treated as a maid? This banquet must be an announcement about Su Tang and Li Lei. The guests secretly thought, looking at Xiaoling with a bit of sympathy, so what if poor Miss Ye is young, beautiful, and has both fame and wealth? She has a dissatisfied stomach and will eventually lose in love. I heard that she can no longer get pregnant and have children. Even if she adopts a child, it will not be the Li family's biological child after all. You can tell which woman the Li family will turn to with just your toes. Many people thought that the overall situation was settled. The kind-hearted lady couldn't bear to see Xiaoling being ridiculed and made a fool of herself in public. She walked up to her and said, Miss Ye, I heard that the scenery in the garden is beautiful. Come with me for a walk. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 776. Chapter 776. Should I come to power? Xiaoling glanced at the lady. Who are you? The lady said kindly, my husband's surname is Du, my husband is Du Yunwei, my son is Du Zheng, and my brother-in-law is Du Yunfan. Speaking of which, you and Yunfan have become brothers and sisters, so you should call me sister-in-law. Xiaoling then realized that the person in front of her was the wife of the chairman of the Du group. Every member of the Du family she had seen was sharp, but she never expected that the matron of the family could be so kind and amiable. So she followed the good advice and said, sister-in-law. Even if she didn't like that little Du Yunfan, Du Zheng had helped Xiao Hui before, and now Mrs. Du was helping her again. She was willing to recognize this relative. Mrs. Du still doesn't know what kind of hidden and wealthy family her unintentional act of kindness has won. She stretched out her hand and took Xiaoling's arm very naturally. "Let's go, sister, let's enjoy the flowers." Xiaoling didn't bother to talk to Sutang anymore. Anyway, when Xiao Hui's life experience was announced, this woman would naturally be disgraced. She didn't want to waste her quarrel, so she walked down the steps handed over by Mrs. Du. "I heard that the tulips here are beautiful, but it's a pity that they haven't bloomed yet." She and Mrs. Du were talking about the flowers and were about to go out. Unexpectedly, someone stopped me. "Wait a minute." An old, majestic voice. Xiaoling frowned and turned around to see Mr. Li tonight. The old man is still wearing a Chinese tunic suit, embroidered with dark patterns of dragons on it, looking very elegant and domineering. The old man held an agar wood faucet crutch in his hand, and stared at Xiaoling with a pair of energetic eyes. "Since Miss Ye is here and will not join everyone in the banquet hall, why did she go to such a deserted garden? I blame my old man for entertaining not careful." "There's nothing wrong with the reception." Xiaoling had a slight smile on her face, but her words were neither soft nor hard. "I told you, Li Lei and I prepared this banquet together. When it comes to the reception, it's not good. It's because I didn't treat you well. Please be patient." There was a buzz in the crowd. I didn't expect that she was so bold that even the old man dared to contradict her. In normal people's logic, since she loves Li Lei, she should respect Li Lei's elders. Even if the old man dislikes her, she should be more diligent to please him. How can she be rude in just a few words? Is this the reason for being a junior? Several reporters attending the banquet clicked their shutters one after another to take photos of this scene. Xiaoling didn't care. When she first debuted, she dared to slap people. Not to mention that now she was rich, famous, and well established, with such a big family behind her. Reporters could just report whatever they wanted. She asked herself if she had done anything wrong, and she has no obligation to be foolish and filial to an old man who has framed her several times. Mr. Li was extremely angry. This girl is really ignorant. You shouldn't have entered the Li family's door. His eyes turned cold and he looked at Xiaoling. "Miss Ye, please sing a song for us." "What?" Xiaoling was slightly startled. Mr. Li said slowly, "I asked Xiao Lei to hold this banquet for only one purpose, and that is to find a mother for Xiao Rui. Xiao Rui is almost 5 years old, and he doesn't have a complete family yet. His parents are not married yet. This is unreasonable, Miss Ye, don't you think so?" Xiaoling stared at the old man dumbfounded. Where did this come from? Over there. Feng Kun looked a little gloomy. How much did this old man dislike Xiaoling that he used such a strong method to disrupt the situation? As soon as these words were spoken, the purpose of the banquet was changed directly in front of everyone. Can Li Lei fight against his grandfather? If fighting means breaking up, how will the media report Xiaoling? If you don't fight, perhaps their relationship will be ruined. The more Feng Kun thought about it, the more troublesome the matter became. He took a few steps forward, ready to intervene at any time. Mr. Li continued, "It's time for Xiao Lei to get married, and the bride will be the child's mother, Sutang. Miss Ye, this is really something worthy of congratulations, right? You are Xiao Lei's friend and a singer, so, come on stage, let's sing a song as a blessing to Xiao Lei and Sutang." This time, not only Feng Kun, but also Wei Shaiyan noticed something was wrong. "I asked Xiaoling to sing, is this old man crazy?" Wei Shaiyan's voice was like a thin blade of ice. Although his thoughts were not as tortuous as Feng Kun's, he knew very well that he had been in the music scene all year round. Under such circumstances, if Xiaoling stepped onto the stage to sing, she would be lowering herself from a VIP to a singer, and would be different from those who were being a band hired to play violin is no different. Not to mention, singing for a love rival. This is humiliating. Mr. Lee deliberately humiliated her. He looked at Mr. Lee suddenly, with a bad look on his face. The old man was staring closely at Xiaoling, making it clear that he wanted to humiliate her. He told her with his eyes, "Yes, Xingling, you are just a singer and an actor, and you are not worthy of entering my Li family." Xiaoling understood the look in his eyes. She breathed out softly, "My appearance fee is very expensive." Xiaoling, Wei Sheying couldn't help but call her, for fear that she would do something stupid and actually go on stage to sing. If she lowers her status here, she will be embarrassing herself. The next day, news ridiculing her would be all over the place. However, Xiaoling turned a deaf ear to his anxious call. She looked at Mr. Li quietly with a pair of clear eyes. Mr. Li laughed angrily, "Is it expensive? Miss, yeah, maybe the cost of a stage performance is sky high for you, but it's just a drop in the bucket for my Li family." Su Tang also spoke next to him, "We won't treat you badly. We will pay 3 times the highest price you have ever announced." She was afraid that Xiaoling would offer a sky-high price, so she quickly blocked it with words, and she looked very graceful. Generosity, she is truly a perfect mistress. Xiaoling looked at her for a long time. Su Tang suddenly discovered that this girl's eyes seemed to have a magical power, as if they could penetrate people's hearts. Under such gaze, she could hardly help but dodge away. However, she held back and looked at Xiaoling with a dignified manner. Xiaoling was thinking about what price she should pay to torture the old man and Su Tang, and express her anger at the same time. Well, it would be better to make a big boss feel so painful that he regrets letting people come out to disrupt the situation. Before I could think about it, I suddenly heard a voice, "I'll sing for Xiaoling." She turned around in shock and saw Luoluo. Young girls have short and fluffy hair, made into a lively and energetic shape like an elf. A pink-green gauze tutu skirt looks beautiful and smart. She looked at the group of people present with a pair of clear black and white eyes and said seriously, "Today is Xiaoling's big day, she shouldn't sing in person." This sentence was taught to her by Feng Kun. As soon as Feng Kun saw that the situation was not going well, he quietly went out to look for someone. He had seen the guest list and knew that there were many friends of Xiaoling among the guests, including many singers like Luoluo. "Let me sing a song to Xiaoling too. How could such a memorable day be without me? There is also me, I am also willing to sing. And I." Celebrities who are well known in the entertainment industry appeared out of nowhere. Xiao Hui's life experience will be announced on Saturday. Good night everyone. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 777. Chapter 777. A Chorus of Stars. In the banquet hall, soft and bright lights overflowed. Luoluo, Bai Murong, Xia Linlang, Lu Tao, these stars, big and small, were wearing bright and gorgeous evening gowns, surrounding Xiaoling like stars over the moon. The reporter's camera's shutters sounded again. Xiaoling looked around and saw that not all of these celebrities had a deep friendship with her. However, at the critical moment, they were able to stand up for her, even if they offended Mr. Li. This kindness is enough for her to remember. Luoluo blinked a pair of clear and black and white eyes, and said quickly, "It's rare to sing a song for Xiaoling, so we don't want any appearance fees, because she is our friend. If it were someone else, how much more would we give her? You can't sing either, right?" Murong, Lin Lang. The stars around her smiled and nodded. The profession of singer is a bit special. In the eyes of ordinary people, it seems to have unlimited glory. However, in certain places where celebrities and bigwigs gather, it is indeed easy to be regarded as a singer and not get much respect. Xiaoling's experience today has been experienced more or less by several celebrities present, and now it has aroused the same hatred and hatred. There is another reason. Except for Luo Luo and a few others who are real best friends with Xiaoling, Bai Murong, Xia Linlang and others are all stars under Tianyi. Although the old man has great power, the county magistrate is not as good as the current one. Of course, they support their own Lilei. Boss. The big boss has already said that Xiaoling is the boss's wife. How can they not support the boss's wife at the critical moment? Anyway, they won't be afraid if the sky falls and the big boss is there to hold it up. A group of people stood in line happily. Mr. Li was angry, this banquet has nothing to do with Miss Yet. A group of celebrities ignored him, walked up to the band playing the violin and whispered something in a low voice. When the band leader saw that there were so many big stars, of course he wanted to give them face. He immediately ordered the band to change the melody according to their requirements and accompany the stars. Celebrities appeared on the stage and familiar melody sounded. Is a classic song that has been popular at home and abroad for many years, The Whole World Sings for You. Very suitable for the occasion. Bai Murong was wearing a retro lace formal dress, holding a microphone in a graceful manner, and sang the first tune, You Are the Swaying Light in Midsummer, the fragrance of flowers in dreams. The King of Heaven takes action and makes an extraordinary impact. The entire banquet scene, whether they had noticed the dispute just now or not, all turned their heads to look at him. Only then did I realize that so many stars had gathered on the luxurious and beautiful stage. At a rough count, there were more than a dozen people, and everyone was well-mannered and as if they were attending a concert. What's going on? Some guests asked, is this a pre-arranged performance? His companion was also confused and said, no, I remember that Mr. Bai and the others entered as guests, not performers. And Lu Tao Luoluo and the others, don't you think the status of these people is different, is it too much? The stars singing on the stage include super kings like Bai Murong, ordinary popular singers like Lu Tao, and female singers like Luo Luo who are not too popular. They are all mixed. Why? Look how weird it is. The guests felt very sad. The power of curiosity is endless. Soon, someone discovered the new world. Look, it seems that all the singers who came to the banquet are on stage, except Ye Xinling. When he said this, everyone realized that, indeed, all the singers were on stage, leaving only Ye Xinling standing under the stage, holding a champagne glass in her hand, listening quietly with a smile on her face. A hazy halo enveloped her body, and her long skirt fluttered like a fairy. Is Ye Xinling being squeezed out? Asked a person who didn't know the truth. People B who didn't know the truth observed for a while, it doesn't look like it. You see she is surrounded by Feng Kun and Wei Shaiyin. They are obviously very close. Even if those singers dare to exclude Ye Xinling, they don't dare to offend Feng Kun and Wei Shaiyin. Which singer is so full that he offends the top producers in the industry? The masses do not know the truth even more. Forget it, let's listen to the song first, and then we can ask about it after Bai Murong and the others come down, okay? That's right, they gathered towards the stage and enjoyed the song performed by a group of stars. This song The World Sings for You is so popular that everyone can sing it. Although the dozen or so stars on the stage have not rehearsed beforehand, their long-term performance experience allowed them to quickly find the groove and cooperate very well. Smooth. Xia Linlang continued Bai Murong singing, The Horse Gallops in the Legend. Luo Luo, The Whole World Sings for You. Lu Tao, Songs all over the world ring for you, only for the strong. One sound, one sentence, creating a dreamy world. The banquet hall was very large, and Li Lei, who was originally chatting with the guests at that end, was also attracted and turned around to look in the direction of the stage. Beside him, the chairman of Chen's real estate development company said with a smile, it's really lively over there, second young master Li, why don't we go and have a look too? Li Lei also smiled, holding the champagne glass and walking over casually. In the crowd, Su Tang stood beside Mr. Li, but he kept searching for Li Lei. At this time, seeing Li Lei appear, he hurriedly walked towards him, looking a little pale. "I'm sorry, young master, I did something wrong." Li Lei raised his eyebrows slightly. "I." Su Tang bit her lip gently. "The old man was too protective of me and wanted to ask Miss Ye to sing a song for me, but Miss Ye was unwilling and called a friend." Li Lei understood that it was his grandfather who had resorted to some means to exclude Xiaoling. He said to Su Tang gently, "It's none of your business." Su Tang was very uneasy. "If it weren't for me. Even if it wasn't you, there would be someone else." Li Lei was very open-minded. The old man didn't like Xiaoling, so he used Su Tang as a spearman. Even if Su Tang wasn't here today, the old man would use other methods to find someone. Xiaoling is in trouble. He doesn't blame Su Tang, because the crux of the matter is not Su Tang, but the old man's prejudice. Su Tang secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It was great, it was so easy to pick himself off. She wanted to use the old man's hand to suppress Xiaoling, but she didn't want her behavior to arouse Li Lei's disgust. Otherwise, how could she stay with him? This is the best thing now. Li Lei will only think that the old man is wrong and will not point the finger at her. This was exactly the ending she wanted. "Thank you, master," she said softly and stayed beside Li Lei to watch the performance. Over there, Xiaoling looked at the stage, already immersed in the music. Even though there are countless worries in reality, music has always been her second life. Especially now, it is rare to see so many singers with different levels and reputations performing on the same stage. She is very engaged and keeps singing. Analyze their strengths and weaknesses. The next chapter will be around 10 o'clock. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 778. Chapter 778. So much dignity. Murong's attack was good, but he didn't take into account the level of the person behind him, and he was a little out of touch with the second person. Lu Tao's skills have improved, but hip-hop has always been different from other pop music, and his connection with the two before and after him is not very good. It was obvious that he was trying his best to blend in, but he still seemed clumsy. Luoluo's tone is very lively and cute. At first glance, she doesn't have much skills, but she can play a very good lubricating role among all kinds of singers. Wherever she is present, the transition is smooth. She was very involved in the analysis, and she was thinking about telling them what would happen to them later. Suddenly, Feng Kun nudged her gently with his elbow. She turned her head blankly and heard Feng Kun whisper, "Look over there." She followed his line of sight and saw Li Lei arriving at some unknown time. He was looking in the direction of the stage with his hands folded and looking thoughtfully at the stage. Beside him, Su Tang stood side by side, in a very natural posture like a couple. Xiaoling's anger rose. A couple of bitches. This makes the boss hate him all the same. Feng Kun couldn't laugh or cry. He was convinced by this girl. His love rival wanted to the man away. Why was she concentrating on studying music just now? If it hadn't been for this curse, he would have thought that she didn't care. Xiaoling lifted up the hem of her gauze skirt and walked toward the two of them menacingly. Stand still in front of a certain big boss, Li Lei. Master Boss saw her in a blink of an eye and smiled. Xiaoling, the arms that were hugging his chest just now naturally stretched out, and with just a gentle pull, he took her into his arms. "You are here. Hold her and watch the show together." Su Tang's face turned slightly pale when he saw this scene, but he restrained himself very well. Xiaoling was surrounded by Li Lei and her back was pressed against his warm and generous chest. The anger in her heart suddenly disappeared, and she found a comfortable position in his arms without forgetting to glance sideways at Su Tang. Proudly Yang Yang demonstrated. Feng Kun looked at it from a distance and felt that he couldn't bear to look directly at it. Really, after 2 lifetimes, You are still so easy to deceive, and your sweetheart gives in just by giving you some sweetness. He simply didn't understand why Pei Ziyan couldn't catch up with Xiaoling, who was so easy to deceive. It's really a pig, isn't it? Grandpa made you unhappy again, over there, Li Lei asked softly in Xiaoling's ear. The scene of the two embracing each other was beautiful, and they did not shy away from people, which attracted many reporters to snap photos. While taking pictures, they discussed, it seems that second young master Li still likes Ye Xingling. The overall situation has been decided. Su Tang loses. Someone with evil intentions pointed the camera at Su Tang and captured the expression on her face. Su Tang sensed the reporter's malicious intentions and had to step away from Li Lei. She didn't want to stay here and be compared and laughed at. She returned to Mr. Li, acting filial and virtuous. Xiaoling's clear eyes stared at Su Tang as she backed away, and answered Li Lei's question nonchalantly, "It's not a big deal if your grandpa makes me unhappy. I've been fighting with people for 2 lifetimes, so what's there to be afraid of? If he continues like this, he will offend my brother. If my brother gets angry, I don't know what the consequences will be." Li Lei is a little melancholy, his brother-in-law is so fierce. "It doesn't matter," he continued to say in her ear, "after tonight, everyone will know that you gave birth to a son for me, and grandpa will accept you." Xiaoling groaned, "For Xiao Hui's sake? I don't care. Some people like her because of who she is, such as Li Lei. Some people like her because she can have children, such as Mr. Li. She doesn't care about the latter, she just treats her as a fertility tool. In the future, please don't let me meet your grandpa. I won't cause trouble for him. Thank God if he doesn't cause trouble for me." This is the biggest concession she can make. Li Lei nodded repeatedly. "He lives in the overseas headquarters. You live in China, so you can't see him or her." The two whispered, and in the eyes of others, it was a deep affection. The reporters were very satisfied. The group of photos they took this time were very beautiful, and they could attract a lot of people's attention when released. They loved interviewing Li Lei and Ye Xingling so much. Su Tang also looked at them, as if thousands of steel thorns were stabbed in his heart. "No, we must not let them continue to be so sweet and affectionate. If they announced that they were together tonight, wouldn't she have no hope?" Su Tang thought about it and said softly to the old man, "Grandpa, I'll excuse you. I'm going to find a nanny to take Xiaorui home first. Xiaorui will be sad if he sees his father with another woman." This move of retreating in order to advance was very successful. Mr. Li was instantly angry. "Where are you going? Stay here. I don't believe that this brat is so rebellious that he dares to marry a woman I don't like." After the old man finished speaking, he walked away. Su Tang watched the old man leave with an undetectable smile on his lips. On the stage, the singing of the singers came to an end. After Xia Linlang sang the last line, "When the whole world sings for you, you are the light of glory and eternal hope," the song officially ended. A group of celebrities bowed gracefully and took their last breaths. Thunderous applause erupted from the stage. Bai Murong raised the microphone as gracefully as a prince. "It's an honor to ask Xiaoling to sing a song on her big day. But to be honest, Xiaoling, what good news are you and our boss going to announce tonight? Is it time to reveal it? Is it possible that you are getting married?" His words aroused good-natured laughter from the audience. Some guests booed. "Second young master Li, is what you are going to announce today really related to Miss Ye?" "Yeah, don't be so secretive, just tell us quickly." Li Lei gently let go of Xiaoling and smiled so brightly that his white teeth were exposed. He was about to say something when suddenly, the lights in the banquet hall were darkened. Many people exclaimed, "What happened? Is there a power outage?" Amidst the chaos, a white beam of light slowly lit up on the stage. In the beam of light, Mr. Li's figure wearing a Tuan Long tunic suit came out. "Don't be joking, everyone. What our Lee family is going to announce tonight has nothing to do with Miss Yet. What our Lee family is going to announce is that this girl Sotang has nothing to do with my grandson. Lee Lei's marriage news, their 2 children are almost 5 years old, it's time to give their children a complete family. As soon as the sentence came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Mr. Lee just said this to the guests off the stage, and now he said it officially on the stage. Is it really true? Isn't this a slap in Miss Yes' face? Bimurong and the others held her up so high just now, and then she was knocked down to dust in an instant. Countless people wanted to see Xiaoling's expression, but it was dark everywhere and they couldn't see anything. Instead, another beam of light shone down, accurately covering Sotang's figure below the stage, making her bright gold-woven dress shine under the beam. Sotang, come up, Mr. Lee's voice was majestic, let everyone see how nice and dignified my future granddaughter-in-law of the Lee family is. Next chapter before 12 o'clock. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 779. Chapter 779 Life Announcement. Everyone's eyes were focused on Sotang. Sotang's delicately made-up face showed just the right amount of surprise and bewilderment, just like an actress who is flattered when it is suddenly announced that she has won an Oscar. She couldn't let Li Lei think that she and the old man had planned it. She had to pretend to be the most innocent, so that Li Lei's wrath would not come to her. Mr. Li didn't see what she was thinking. He just thought that he didn't communicate with her well in advance, which caused her to be too surprised and didn't know how to react. So, the old man urged, Sotang, what are you doing standing still? Come up quickly. Sotang just woke up from a dream and gracefully stepped onto the stage. The gold-woven skirt with a large tail is swaying all the way along the steps. At this time, she is as gorgeous as any big-name star walking on the red carpet. Many guests are already whispering, this woman is indeed the one that Mr. Lee has chosen. She is so calm and generous. She is indeed the style of a mistress of a wealthy family. Many people nodded secretly. Some people even said, in comparison, Ye Xingling looks childish. Although she is a super popular diva and is full of aura on stage, just because she is so popular, everyone knows how innocent she is on weekdays, just like a little girl who has not yet grown up. Sotang already has the grace of a queen, and Ye Xingling is still a little princess, someone concluded. They watched Sotang, who was full of empress style, come onto the stage and stand next to Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee looked towards the audience, Xiao Lei, come up too. It's self-evident why he came up here, it must be to facilitate his marriage with Sotang. The old man's move is too cruel and a tactic to draw out the firepower. In front of so many people, can Li Lei still refute his intention? If you refute, the Li family's face and Sotang's face will be completely humiliated. Xiaoling was very angry. She held Li Lei's hand and whispered, you are not allowed to go up. Li Lei gently pushed her away and comforted her softly, be good, Xiaoling, I will take care of it. What are you going to do? Agree to the marriage, Xiaoling glared at him. Li Lei laughed, this girl is so cute when she is jealous. He pinched her face and said, did you forget that we still have Xiaohui? After saying that, before Xiaoling could react, she walked onto the stage. On the stage, Mr. Li and Sotang stood in a circle of silver halo. A smaller beam of light struck Li Lei. He walked forward slowly and said in a low voice, Grandpa is right, children need a mother and a complete family. There was a slight commotion among the crowd in the audience. Master Li what do you mean by this? Do you agree with what the old man said? Even Mr. Li was surprised. He thought that his grandson would resist, but who would have expected that his grandson would agree with these words so easily? What's the conspiracy here? Mr. Li's eyes darkened and he said, then, you will give Xiao Rui a complete home. Having said this, Su Tang smiled. Victory was in sight. She couldn't think of any other way for Li Lei to evade. She looked at him lovingly, for the sake of the child, I am willing to be with you. Bitch. In the audience, Wei Shaying couldn't help but curse in a low voice. This woman obviously wants to marry Li Lei in the next second, but she still pretends to be reserved. It's really a good deal and still behaves well. Shameless. Feng Kun next to him said, calm down, you have to trust Xiao Ling's vision in choosing a man. Li Lei can't be that weak and just give in with a few words, right? Unexpectedly, Wei Shaying glanced sideways at Feng Kun. Can you believe that stupid girl's judgment in choosing a man? Feng Kun suddenly fell silent. On the stage, Li Lei looked at Su Tang gently, with an apology in his voice, sorry, I can't marry you. What? Young Master Li, are you refusing to marry in public? Everyone was in an uproar. What they had imagined but never thought would actually happen actually happened. Second, young Master Li, regardless of his elders and family reputation, simply and roughly slapped the old man and Su Tang in the face. Su Tang looked at Li Lei in disbelief. She didn't expect him to speak so directly. She was embarrassed and angry for a moment, and her face was so red that she wanted to bleed. How could this happen? How could this happen? She heard herself ask in a trembling voice, why? Li Lei was gentle and sincere, Su Tang, you are a good woman, I owe you a lot. Mr. Li was angry, since you know you owe me so much, why did you refuse the marriage in public? I order you to marry Su Tang as your wife. Grandpa, Li Lei turned around and looked at the old man, because I owe Xiao Ling a lot. The old man sneered, what can you owe her? She owes us the Li family almost the same. Thinking of the girl's lonely fate and the many twists and turns that the Li family had gone through for her in the past few years, the old man became very angry. Li Lei said, when Su Tang gave birth to Xiao Rui, although he had no status, I took good care of him. Xiao Rui grew up in the Li family, enjoying the honor of a young master, being well fed and clothed, and safe. Mr. Li snorted coldly, so you think you have done enough? Su Tang looked pale and was about to cry. However, he still endured the humiliation and persuaded the old man softly, young master has been very good to me in the past few years. We, mother and son, are content. One word made many people sympathize with her. Li Lei looked at her apologetically, I'm sorry. Then he turned around and said to the old man and the guests in the audience, but there is a child who is also my son, my biological son. I was not around when he was pregnant. It was his mother who worked hard to give birth to him. He lived for 100 days. He disappeared during the banquet, and there was no news from him for 4 or 5 years. I never fulfilled my responsibility as a father. Now that he is back, I must make it up to him. He is Xiaowai, the son Xiao Ling gave me. As soon as these words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Even Mr. Li was shocked. What? Li Lei, don't talk nonsense. Are you making up stories to lie to me just to be with Yesin Ling? How could I lie to you with such a thing, Grandpa? Li Lei said, the results of the paternity test are out. I am Xiao Hui's biological father, and Xiao Ling is his biological mother. There is no mistake. He handed an identification certificate to Mr. Li. Mr. Li took the certificate with trembling hands and read it at a glance. Sure enough, the result written on it is exactly, Li Lei and Xiao Hui are father and son, and Xiaoling and Xiao Hui are mother and son. In other words, Li Shanhe finally has a great-grandson. Not a nominal great-grandson with no blood relationship like Li Rui, but a full-blooded great-grandson. Happiness comes too suddenly and is too unreal. The old man raised his head, still in disbelief, really? How can Xiaowai be your biological son? Wasn't he adopted by Ye Xingling? Where is the child? Let me see. It's gone tonight. Good night everyone. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 780. Chapter 780 Xiao Hui's Bloodline. Xiaoling felt her hand being held by a soft little hand. She lowered her head and finally saw Xiao Hui's face clearly in the dim light. The little child raised his head and said with some anxiety, "Mom, I don't want to go on the stage." "Why?" she squatted down and asked softly. The child's voice was very soft, "I don't want to call that person, Grandpa." So Xiaoling felt a pain in her heart. Her children, whom she knew best, smiled at all times and didn't care if they were occasionally offended by the servants. What kind of hardship did he endure before he could resist someone? She said, "If you don't scream, you won't scream." Xiao Hui's eyes flickered, "Is it really possible? When has Mom ever lied to you?" Xiaoling smiled and touched the child's little head sympathetically, "Don't worry, Mom will hold you up if the sky falls." The child felt relieved and breathed a sigh of relief. A soft white light swept through the crowd several times and stopped on the mother and son. On the stage, Li Lei's smiling voice spread through the microphone, "Xiaoling, Xiaowai, come up." She held the child's hand and walked towards the stage step by step. Wherever they passed, the crowds parted automatically, making way for them. Everyone's eyes were focused on the mother and son. The reporters' flashbulbs kept sounding, and the sound was as loud as a red carpet. Xiaoling has long been used to such battles, and she is as elegant and calm as ever. What's rare is that Xiao Hui doesn't have stage fright. He slightly straightens his baby face and tries to look majestic. It's so cute. They stood next to Li Lei, a few steps away, and came face to face with Mr. Li and Sutang. Sutang's face was slightly ugly, but it was well concealed by makeup and hair accessories. She still can't believe it. What, Xiao Hui is actually Li Lei's biological son? Could this be a deliberate strategy that Li Lei and Xiaoling came up with in order to persuade the old man to agree to their being together? Definitely yes. She must try to expose their conspiracy. The woman's fingers were clenched into fists at her sides, her sharp nails digging into her palms. Beside her, Mr. Li didn't notice anything strange at all. All his thoughts were focused on little Xiaowai. This was the first time he saw a child. When he sent someone to kidnap him before, he didn't even bother to look at the photo. The child looks very upright, has fine features, and wears a silver-white tuxedo of exquisite material. His neat posture is like a born nobleman, which is something that ordinary children cannot imitate even if they put on a formal dress. What's even more rare is that he is different from Li Rui's somewhat gloomy temperament. Xiao Xiaowai's silly and cute face looks very much like Li Lei's when he was a kid. Mr. Li was reminded of his memories. The more he looked at his great-grandson, the happier he became. There was an unprecedented kindness in his voice. "Are you Xiao Xiaowai?" Xiao Xiaowai held Xiaoling's hand tightly and shrank back from the gauze of her light lotus-colored fairy skirt. Mr. Li's smile was a little stiff. Li Lei smoothed things over. This child is a little afraid of life. In fact, he knew very well in his heart, why was little Xiaowai afraid of life? He was losing his temper, remembering the last time he was kidnapped and taken to paradise. Mr. Li's embarrassed look softened a little. Li Lei bent down, and he effortlessly picked up the 5-year-old chubby child with one hand. He held up the microphone and said to all the guests below the stage, "This is my son, Xiao Hui. He is 5 years old this year. He is 1 year older than Xiao Rui and is my eldest son." There was a lot of discussion under the stage. Except for media reporters, all the guests are from the upper class. They know very well what the eldest son means to the wealthy families. For a moment, all kinds of eyes were on Xiao Xiaowai, Li Lei, Xiaoling, and Sutang. They originally thought that his eldest son was Li Rui, the son of Sutang, but who would have expected that Xiaowei would appear on the way? Now it's interesting. Who will inherit the fourth generation of the Li family? Although the Li family does not have a 100% system of primogeniture, as the eldest son, as long as he does not die a catastrophic death, he will always have many advantages over other sons. Su Tang's expression was even worse, and he could hardly hide it. Xiao Hui's life experience was announced so suddenly that she didn't realize until now that this little was actually 1 year older than Li Rui. How could this be? Her mind was running rapidly, forcing herself to calm down, and she must find a way to resolve the embarrassing situation in front of her. Mr. Li smiled. Eldest son is good. Since this child is Li Lei's biological flesh and blood and takes the title of the eldest son, there is no pressure to raise Su Tang's unrelated Li Rui into a playboy. In the future, there will not be a situation where Li Rui competes for inheritance rights. Mr. Li was very happy. Off the stage, a reporter asked, "Mr. Li, Miss Ye, congratulations on finding your biological child. But there are a few things I don't understand. If this child is biological, when did Miss Ye get pregnant and give birth to her child, him? We all know that Miss Ye is a public figure and has only been pregnant once in her life, and that was when she married into the Pei family 5 years ago." When he asked this question, everyone realized that something was wrong. "Yes, Miss Ye, please explain to us. Wasn't the child you were pregnant with 5 years ago Pei Xian's son? That child died within 100 days, right?" Xiaoling had long expected to be questioned like this. She glanced at Li Lei, who gave her an encouraging look. So, she raised the microphone and slowly narrated, "The specific reasons are too complicated to be described in one sentence. In fact, the child I was pregnant with 5 years ago was not Pei Xian's, but Li Lei's. The child disappeared on the 100th day. I thought he died, not really. Thank God for bringing him back to me after so many years." The whole audience was in an uproar. There was too much information in this paragraph, and their brains were a little hard to use. It was Su Tang who reacted first and asked immediately, "Miss Ye, are you saying that when you married Pei Xian and announced that you were pregnant and gave birth to Pei Xian's child, it was actually a lie? The Pei family did not get an heir, but..." She seemed to realize that she had made a mistake and swallowed back the rest of her words. "I'm sorry, I was so shocked," she apologized softly. Xiaoling gave her a cold look, and she could tell with her toes that she was doing it on purpose. Off the stage, some reporters were already clamoring, "Miss Ye, did you cuckold Mr. Pei Xian back then? Big gossip, this is definitely shocking big gossip." The love-hate relationship between the popular diva and the two major entertainment group giants has taken a new turn. The mystery of the heir's lineage and the shocking reversal of life experience. The reporters were very excited. On the other hand, many celebrities had unsightly expressions on their faces, showing a hint of disdain for Xiaoling. They all come from wealthy families, and they know how serious a sin it is to mix up their bloodlines. There are 3 more chapters tonight. End of this chapter.